Hi, this is Natalie Rydström with this week's SBR Industry News Update, reporting for sportsbookreview.com. SBR has issued another scam alert on World Sports Exchange Sportsbook. WSEX is mailing players with deposit bonus offers for the NBA season, despite having nearly $1 million in reported debt. Some WSEX players have been waiting upwards of 2 years for their funds. WSEX is part of the SBR Scam Sportsbook blacklist with a rating of F. The company last made an attempt to bring its debt down in the fall of 2010, when players reported receiving $124,000. Since that time, though, WSEX has more than quadrupled its debt. In other news, more than a dozen MooreGames payout complaints have been submitted by users for over €15,000. One player talked to the SBR forum to describe having a €2,119 balance which has not yet been paid. MooreGames is also attempting to enforce unusual rules, such as not allowing a player to request a cash out for more than 10 times the deposit amount in under 30 days. SBR again urges players to avoid MooreGames whilst the payout claims are active. SBR is considering an initial rating for the sportsbook. And finally, Betting Express, a Gazette book, is addressing a player complaint. A player's account was closed and over 500 pending parlays with about $65,000 in pending wagers were voided. The player claims that many of the parlays had one or more winning legs, and the player was not credited with those wins. Here to tell us more about this complaint is our very own lead dispute analyst, Justin Seven. Justin, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Natalie.
Can you tell us more about this Betting Express dispute?
Yeah, apparently a player blew up his account playing a large sequence of round robins. Probably on the second volley or so, the sportsbook realized what the player was doing, putting in tons of parlays with multiple legs on value bets, and they panicked. So they closed the account and they canceled all of the wagers.
Okay, and what will the best action for Betting Express to take on this?
Well, clearly the best course would be to simply honor the wagers and then pay the player's balance. But it gets much more complicated because when they already void them, it causes headaches. They have to manually track down all the wagers. And we still haven't, I'm still discussing this with them, but they have not yet agreed to grade these wagers. You know, so we'll see where that goes. It could be a pretty big swing, though. If the player indeed has won the first couple legs in several parlays, he may have several $100,000 in equity, which would explain why the book would rather avoid the parlays than grade them.
Wow, quite a lot there. Do you have any other sportsbook complaints where they've treated a player unfairly?
Well, once again, we can talk about SportingBet. A player at SportingBet had a balance of a little over €1,100. His account was closed and his winnings confiscated with no explanation. And I read the chats and it was just kind of mind-blowing. You know, the chat agent says, yes, our management decision has been to take your money. Will you give me a reason for it? No, we won't give you a reason. We're just taking your money, and that's the final decision. So, you know, if a sportsbook is going to confiscate a player's balance, you know, his winnings and his deposit, at the very least, they need to explain to him what rule they broke, and they won't even do that. But we've had a number of disputes against SportingBet where they've treated players unfairly under similar circumstances, so it doesn't surprise me. I've contacted them about this, but they have not yet responded.
And are they often tardy with their communication with you?
They respond to about half of the disputes I inquire with them. And in a vast majority of them, I refer the player to IBS, who has actually hit SportingBet a couple times in the past, ruling in favor of the player.
Right, okay. And do you have one more complaint you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, there's a complaint against Knoxwin. A player opened an account, deposited, and bet his whole balance on his first bet, and he won €420. Knoxwin later contacted the player and said, I'm sorry, we weren't able to verify your account before this wager, so we are voiding the winnings. And this is clearly unfair. If a book needs to validate a player's account before allowing him to bet, then they need to make sure the software doesn't allow him to bet until the account is enabled. There are very rare circumstances when a player can void it for a verification failure. For example, if the player came in with a name that appeared to be someone who had already been banned, or if the transaction looked fraudulent, then it might be okay. But there's no allegation of this. They just said, nope, as a matter of course, we couldn't validate you, so we're voiding your winnings.
Right, and how do other sports books deal with this? Do they often have like a pop-up that maybe would block somebody who has not yet been verified?
To my knowledge, I don't know of any books that do that. Most books will let you play, but they won't pay you out until the validation is done. So, and if it turns out you can't be validated, then at that point they would void all your wagers.
Okay, Justin, thank you for joining us.